Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Cause I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've travelled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Been to Tullamore, Seymour, Lismore, Mooloolaba, Nambour, Roachtor, Kilmore, Marillaba, Birdsville, Emmaville, Wallaville, Connemara, Connemara, Strathround, Proserpine, Alladala, Darwin, Gingin, Lilliquin, Muckdilla, Wallumbilla, Bougainville, Cumberland, I'm a killer. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man.
Well, we certainly have been everywhere through this year on Regional Roundup. We're going probably the furthest we've been, way up to Broken Hill, and a very, very dear person in my life, my stepdaughter Fiona Burrows. Now, good morning, welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
For having me.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. We'll try that again.
Yes, welcome, Fiona Burrows from Broken Hill.
Thank you.
That's
Good
better.
morning.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for doing this. As I said to everyone, we've talked to a lot of people. The basis was around COVID and the trouble that we've known all about the capital cities, but a lot of our regional towns have been under stress. And Broken Hill, way out in the middle of nowhere, always operates under an element of stress already. But Fiona, tell us what the last couple of years have been like for a community that you've worked very, very hard to keep going along reasonably normally.
Yeah, I guess to introduce myself, I'm actually a psychologist out here, and I've worked out here for a number of years, both in Indigenous health and child and adolescent health. So I've, been lucky enough to see how the town operates mental health-wise pre-COVID and obviously post-COVID. And my husband also works in the ED as an emergency doctor, who also works in Aboriginal health. So once again, he's been able to see the differences in terms of presentations and availability around specialists and being able to fly people out, etc., pre and post-COVID. So it's been quite an interesting journey for both of us. I think pre-COVID, Broken Hill's quite an incredible town. It's quite innovative. It's got an incredible background with mining, with art, with movies and film, and it's innovative in its sustainability. We've got wind farms and all of these incredible things happening. But I guess with COVID, everything's kind of stopped. It's had quite a significant impact on such an isolated part of the world.
Have you had some serious issues with COVID, or has it just been a matter of putting up the shutters and trying to keep the virus out of the place?
I guess we've been really lucky. The first wave, we only had 2 cases, which was quite incredible for us. So we still lived in quite a bubble where the impact hadn't, had its fullest effect. So we lived pretty COVID-free for quite some time, and that's obviously due to our isolation and the impacts around, no visitors, no travel, etc. But I guess we were much worse hit in this latest round where, in a town of 17,000 people, we had a good 200 people hit, and unfortunately one person passed away from it. So I guess that changed our perspective on the severity of it, and not living it through television versus living it, day to day. So, it's had quite an impact on the community.
Our Mildura correspondent, who has been on our on this segment a couple of times, Katrina, she's in fact from Broken Hill. Her parents still live there. One of the things that she's reported to us is the fact that whilst, even when the numbers were relatively low, being isolated away from being able to visit Victoria, also being not able to visit Adelaide for some of the big things that you guys do. Yes, for a period of time you were able to get across to Sydney, but it's miles and miles and miles and miles, isn't it?
Yeah, and Adelaide is still 500 kilometres away from us, but it's our nearest capital city, and obviously where majority of our health-based or more critical health-based service delivery is. So having that border shut has had, quite detrimental impacts, not just in crisis management around medical procedures, etc., but also getting locums to Broken Hill, specialist services around child and adolescent psychiatry, and even something as simple as speech therapy. How do you do that with a 4-year-old via telehealth? It's near impossible. So it's had impacts right through from that critical level of care, people getting the right level of crisis management around their medical care, right through to impacting 4-year-olds and at an allied health perspective. So it's had quite a detrimental effect. And even now with the changes in the border requirements, it's still taking people days to isolate before they have their medical procedures in Adelaide. And it's been quite a significant impact on the medical industry for us.
The other thing, of course, your goods and services come into the town via truck and other forms of transport, and the fear that the drivers and those carrying the goods are carrying the virus as well. So you could do all the very best things yourselves in the town, but you need things coming in and you need to get out as well. So that's living that constant concern. So were face masks, were they an easy thing to sell to the people of Broken Hill?
Yeah, I think so. Probably one of the hardest things was actually getting the immunisations. So there's a community called Wilcannia, which is about an hour and a half from Broken Hill, and they're very isolated. It's a town of 900 people, and it's quite significantly populated with the Indigenous culture. And yeah, they had in terms of getting goods and services out to that area, it wasn't even a fear. They literally couldn't get bread, the basics out there. And thankfully health and other services in town and the community rallied together and actually got, goods and services out to them. Otherwise, they just had no access to it, particularly when they were affected via COVID. So yeah, it's not just that fear, but it's also detrimentally impacted communities where they couldn't even get those basic goods.
I was living in Sydney when some of those isolation things were happening, and there was a sense of, aren't we doing a good job because we're keeping Broken Hill in the loop, even though, it's the third choice in terms of your capital city and, you're 1,000 k's away or whatever it happens to be. It comes back to this thing that, and part of the reason why we went down the path of having regional Roundup is just to get to people who are living in places like Geelong to clearly understand some of the heartache and hardship you guys are facing.
Yeah, I think it's, certainly Sydney were fantastic in terms of the health service, in terms of providing services out here and additional immunisations, etc. So that's actually been quite good. But yeah, in terms of those smaller communities around Broken Hill, they're probably the ones affected the most significantly by it.
Fiona, change of career for you. Motherhood has popped up during this period of time. You're now away from work, away from that pressure, but a whole new lot of pressure. But I guess it's been to be somewhat isolated because of COVID. I guess it's helped your motherhood skills because you just have to do them really well, don't you? You got nowhere else to go.
Yes, I had 14 weeks of a little baby just attached to me constantly, so I'm not sure how that impacted her attachment style, whether or not it's healthy or not. But yeah, it's certainly a long time to entertain a baby/toddler, and quite isolating for a lot of the new mums in town who obviously had children but had no outlet in terms of baby groups and whatever else. So obviously the risks of postnatal depression increase. It has quite a flow-through effect.
And of course, the pressure of the work you had before as a clinical psychologist to the pressure of a motherhood. What's better and worse?
I'm not sure. I think I certainly work harder now, that's for sure.
Well, you can't go home and leave it in the office, can you?
No.
Not at all, as much as I'd like to. But I guess, I'm meant to say that she's so rewarding. So I guess this is my best job, but by far the hardest job.
Yeah. Fee, thank you very much for your time this morning. The conversation was a little more serious than I thought, but I think it's important to let people understand that, we think we're hard done by down here in Geelong, but the reality is we probably had it pretty easy because I'd hate to be living in an environment that you're in and have all these things closed off, as I had been a tough gig for all. But well done to you. You've toughed it out, and now a whole new world opens up for you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for calling us.
No worries at all.
Absolute pleasure. Good luck, Fee.
Bye.